We've got another episode of Smart Tech Today for you, but before we get there, I do want to put out a request. If you haven't, it would mean so much to Matthew and myself if you went to the iTunes store or the Apple Podcasts library now, the Google Podcast library, any place where you can put some stars or some thumbs up or leave a review. And if you could do that for us, you have no idea how much of a New Year gift that would be to us. Head there, let everybody know what you think of the show, please. And we would greatly appreciate it. We'd love to see some new reviews. But let me tell you about the show this week. Matthew and I start things out by talking about what's going on with Google, including its Fitbit deal and what that means for user privacy. We talk about Amazon's Ring adding end-to-end encryption, some of the new Samsung products, including smart monitors. I'm so excited about smart monitors. Smart TVs are a thing of the past as far as I'm concerned. And LG's latest 4K laser projector, and how, hey, you don't have to have a wine cellar to have a laser projector, right? It's all that and so much more coming up on Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
Welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I am. I've fed. I've watered myself. I have. Taken all of my necessary medicines, and I feel good today. Today feels good. How about you?
Doing well. I was done a bit of grazing and fueling up on caffeine, but otherwise, yeah. It's a honestly pretty boring Thursday, which I love.
Love a good boring day, right?
Yeah.
Nothing too wild going on. Exactly. But, we've got some stuff in the news, and that starts with Google Maps. We've talked about a few updates to Apple Maps in the past and some of the updates to Google Maps. But I think on this show, we talked about how Google was inviting users to kind of add information in places where there was less information, and folks could use an Android device that had the AR capabilities and some of those tracking abilities. So it's clear that Google Maps, continues to improve upon its mapping system, continues to iterate on its mapping system. And Screen Rant has a new piece out about, which interesting place for a piece about Google Maps updates, I would say, but alas, that is where it is, and includes more detailed information for some big cities, including New York, San Francisco, London, and Tokyo. So that way things get a little bit more detailed up close. And I think this is overall a very good thing because especially in cities that are more packed, more involved, you might have the big streets figured out, but it's those little tiny details that make all the difference in navigating or walking or what have you. So this is good stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially, this is always just seeing it spread out more and more. They talked about this last August, and now they're rolling out some of those major cities. But as it goes further, it's going to be huge for accessibility, especially because, like you were saying, more complicated roads or where sidewalks are or staircases and things like that are things that are important to know when you are planning a trip. So that's just always good to see coming to Google Maps. And we just want to keep mentioning it because they do make iterative changes over time. So it's not always some fancy, massive release, but could be coming to a city near you. I don't know why I just pitched that as an ad, but
Coming to a city near you, Google Maps. Yeah. And of course, we knew for a while that Google had been looking at Fitbit and then had acquired Fitbit. And many of you got an email, myself included, if you've ever owned a Fitbit device and signed up for Fitbit, to let you know that the Google Fitbit deal is official. And so regulatory hurdles were where it started, and those seem to have been overcome. But it's now in, and Forbes has written a piece, Kate O'Flaherty has written a piece on Forbes about kind of what the Fitbit deal could mean. And this is interesting because O'Flaherty is a writer about cybersecurity in particular, as a cybersecurity journalist, and so kind of talking about what it means specifically. But here is what I'm going to read a little part from the article. In a blog published this week, Google outlined how it would protect Fitbit users' data, saying its purchase was about the devices, not the data, which is interesting because, and this is me editorializing now, is interesting because I think that was the big initial worry, was that Google would be looking for more places to mine data because it is a very well-known gobble up data and do things with it kind of company. To go on quoting, we worked with global regulators on an approach which safeguards consumers' privacy expectations, including a series of binding commitments that confirm Fitbit users' health and wellness data won't be used for Google ads, and this data will be separated from other Google ad data. So it's clear that they want to make sure that that is not the narrative out there, that people don't stop buying Fitbits because they're concerned about privacy. And I hesitate to just automatically believe that that's going to be the real and true thing. But the bit of silver lining for me is that I would say 3, 4, 5 years ago, Google would not have had to even put this information out because the average consumer was far less worried about personal data privacy than the average consumer is now. And I still think that all of us have more to go on being more protective of our personal data, but it speaks to an improvement in our concern. And I like that. I think that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it could be a thing where they phrased it very specifically. It's like, it's not going to be used for Google ads, but that doesn't mean they're not going to use it to inform future products and things like that. So I think even in terms of regulatory aspects, that separation is important for businesses like that because, or even I think a big thing with the data is that people are concerned that you'll only be able to use it with Google and not the exporting it to other services and the competition thing and things like that. So it could be one of those things where they're a standalone, but it does sound like, Google's been trying to do Wear OS and various versions of their smartwatch thing, and it hasn't really taken off. So maybe this is their way to just be like, look, it took off because we just bought the one that already existed. Like even the article says, or it's quoting someone who's like, there's no way that they could just want the devices like at a certain point. So you've got to assume that there's more business benefit than just pure hardware to Google, especially who's a ad company at heart. So I do think it's going to be siloed, but I think there's still going to be stuff that is overlapping with how they inform their future products. It just makes sense. That's how businesses develop products.
Right.
So I think this is again, I think the other part too is that they passed all of the European regulations and then Google like put little banners at the top of their site being like, it's official, but I don't think the US is fully done addressing whether or not this is going to be a full thing. So it's like official, but still slightly unofficial. We'll have to keep.
Yeah, it's one of these weird sort of muscle it through kind of situations where you kind of make it official before it was official. And that feels strange for sure. And I wonder if that's part of the what's the word I'm looking for? Part of the strategy there is to finalize the deal, even if the deal isn't finalized, to try and move the needle on that. So it would be interesting to see if that ends up getting walked back. Let's move on. Next is Amazon stuff. So up first is this is in technical preview right now, but will eventually make its way, in theory, to devices and to all consumers, which is end-to-end encryption of video streams. So, for Ring devices. This means that the video will be encrypted. So it says, keep your live and recorded video private with encryption that protects it when it's captured, stored, and played back. So that way that when your mobile devices look at the content, it is decrypted at that point. But in transfer, that information is encrypted, and that way it can't be taken and used and stolen. So a very good thing that you kind of wish was just already part of this, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Verge has a detail about just like it's encrypted when you send it to them currently, and then it's encrypted when it's just sitting there. And it's funny because they reference all of the features that you get out of it, which is kind of just like sharing the video in a simpler way. And that currently it's not going to be able to, if you do turn on encryption, it'll block other devices that aren't set up for it yet. But that all just sounds like very simple problems that this should be enforced ahead, because right now law enforcement can basically not like ping them. What is it called? If they receive a search warrant, they can get it right now, and otherwise it would just be encrypted. Like one is, I don't know, like your security truck has good security for it, but then the other one is like you actually have the data and it's not on somebody else's truck. So at least maybe this will help with, I mean, for Amazon, at least their perception, especially since they've been accused of accessing that data in between those encryption phases before. So
yeah, this helps drive it home, right? This is like, hey, we don't have the keys. Only you have the keys. And so we can't give the data away. We don't want to give the data away. And it's not just that we don't want to give the data away. It's that we can't give the data away. And that is Apple's approach as well to this is encrypt as much as possible. And then there's no question about whether that data can be given away and decrypted. So I think that's that'll be a good move, especially as you said, for this company that, you buy this and you've installed a cop in your house. So
maybe those jokes will be less on their line, but they're hoping it'll curb those jokes a little bit.
That's what Amazon is hoping. Like, oh no. So Amazon is working on, or actually has worked on and has created what it calls a technology stack that is basically a way to add smart voice communication to a vehicle. So you can have ALEXA in the car, and it will allow those kind of infotainment systems in cars to communicate for you to be able to communicate with them. So this is a product that is actually going to be sold. It says it's selling this access, and it starts with Fiat Chrysler. It says you will be able to build your own intelligent assistant with unique voices, skills, and wake words. So it's called ALEXA Custom Assistant. And again, essentially is ALEXA, but you make it your own. You kind of get to build your own ALEXA. And so in that way, you whatever you want to call it, you say Fiat, for example, and then, hello, I am Fiat. How may I help you?
The example from their link, the video that is in the article is Brandon. So when you get in your car,
who's
you
Brandon?
talk to Brandon to get directions, but I think an interesting part too is that it is still Amazon's assistant. And so if you ask it something that only Alexa can say or answer, she'll respond. And so it kind of is like making more assistants for, I mean, Amazon is the custom assistant thing is like they're starting out with cars, but they're saying you pretty much anybody could make, or any brands at least could make their own version that's specific to them. And I think that is just fascinating because right now there's basically only 3 or 4 smart assistants, and it can start to become a whole branded voice exercise thing, which coming from the marketing world, I'm sure lots of brands are really excited about. Whether or not the user experience is going to make a ton of sense, or it is, I mean, it's just kind of like almost a skin for.
That's
I said it.
You said the word.
Well,
that's
Brandon,
precisely
maybe I'm triggering someone's
is.
car.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God, how many words are we not going to be able to say?
Oh no, Brandon and Fiat and all these different names. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if, Google works out a way to do this as well, because it does. If you're a company that knows how to do this and has been working on this for a long time and has the consumer data to continue to improve upon the product, and there's this money-making opportunity here, like, hey, don't try and work out your own because those have notoriously sucked in the past. We'll just let you use one that we've made, I think is a pretty smart move. But I do think it's a little confusing to have it kind of jump between the different assistants and you're suddenly talking to a different one when Brandon is unable to answer. It's like they need to add Foley. Brandon's like, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. Let me go get your friend Alexa. Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop.
He's yelling at her. What?
Yeah. And then
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. They're having an argument in the middle of your call and you're like, okay, forget it. I
do think though,
aside from that, cool idea.
It's like a big win for technology overall, because like you said, we don't need a billion random crummy smart assistants from other brands. There's proven technology at this point and they've been working on it for a long time. And so just making it available to other people, and ultimately businesses are the only ones that are going to need that kind of thing. I mean, I just imagine, oh God, my brain just went to like Uncle Sam for the U.S. government or something as an assistant, which is pretty cringy.
Uncle Sam, but how many stars are on the flag of America? Well, I mean, son, like, there are 51 stars because D.C. has become a state.
Sorry. We talked over each other.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. But I mean, I think it's still a cool. It's good to see Amazon doing this. I think in the same way, it's like just get an assistant for the thing that makes sense, and maybe pushing it further for those niches than it makes sense for someone like Amazon themselves to do, because they like at a certain point they're not making cars, and so they're not going to spend the time on those specific features for those users. So that could be cool to see.
Says you. Amazon's totally working on a car.
And they've got Echo Auto and everything.
Yeah. Oh God, don't get me started on that again. So let us move on to the next story. This one is something that I am totally pumped about. I just talked about it on Tech News Weekly earlier today as my story of the week. The founder of Pebble, which is the once popular e-ink smartwatch company that, kind of went under after the introduction of new types of smartwatches, and in particular the Apple Watch. The founder of that company has created a new company and app called Beeper, which you can kind of think of as a pager. Beeper. And what Beeper does is it is a universal chat app, meaning that it pulls in all of the messages from WhatsApp, from Twitter, from Instagram, from Discord, from Slack, from Telegram, from Signal, all these different places, and lets you communicate with all those different people from all those different places in one place, which just saying that starts to put a smile on my face. It makes me so happy because that is just a beautiful idea. But what's really interesting is that it goes a step farther by also allowing you to use iMessage with this service. And there are some wild ways that it does this. One of the more common ways is if folks have a Mac that they always have on and running at home, they can use the Mac as a sort of a relay for the iMessage messages. And then if you don't have a Mac, they've actually worked on installing the app on an old iPhone and then shipping those iPhones out to people. And then they just say, hey, keep this turned on and plugged in and connected to your Wi-Fi network, and it will act as a relay. So I would just use, an old iPhone I had laying around to do this if I wanted to. It's a $10 a month subscription, which makes sense with all these different methods. And I'm not sure how the iPhone fits into that. And it is currently in kind of private beta. I went on there and tried and have signed up to hopefully get an invite at some point, just because I think this is such a cool idea and I would love to try it out for sure. Just the idea of having everything in one place and be able to communicate with all of those folks in one app instead of jumping around to all these different platforms. Golly gee, that sounds so awesome. So we'll see.
It's got a good name too. Just like Beeper. Hit me on Beeper. I don't know. It is just the old school in that way. So that's always, I don't
nostalgia,
want like some
the nostalgia
dumb
play
chat.
is always a good play, right?
Oh yeah. It used to be called Nova Chat and now it's called Beeper. And it's like, hey, let's get all my friends on Nova Chat. It's like, what is that, dude? But
yeah,
something like Beeper
up on
like,
Beeper sounds so much cooler. Hey, you need my beeper? You know my beeper? Here's my beeper.
Bring it back. They got to make, I mean, the jailbroken phone thing is like a physical, I don't know. You got to make some sort of beeper hardware product also.
Oh, that would be cool. It actually looks like a beeper.
That's the way to do it.
Oh my goodness. Beepers, I tell you. Back in my day, the young folks watching this, what's a beeper? Anyway, very cool, and I would love to see this become a tool that gets used by lots of people. So I'm looking forward to trying it out at some point in the future. Apparently, they've gotten a lot of additions to the service, a lot of requests to join the service, and they are going through the invitations one by one. So, not anything that I'll be checking out anytime soon, I'm sure, but at some point I'd like to. Up next, we have news from Samsung and Apple. All righty. Our first bit of news is from Samsung. What have you got for us, Matthew?
The Galaxy Buds Pro. This is a review from 9 to 5 Google. They're basically saying it's nearly the perfect balance, and they are $200 or $199. So I thought it was just interesting to, as somebody who does, at least in the headphone market, and when it's so closely associated with the phone, just kind of thinks of AirPods Pro. But Samsung has been coming out with a lot of stuff lately, and this iteration of the Buds sounds like they nailed it compared to where before maybe they didn't exactly nail it. And I think one of the most relevant features that I'm interested in is the voice detect, because as you are talking to someone and if somebody, I think the best is if somebody starts talking to you and you're wearing them and you start responding, it will automatically lower the volume, because that is something that I won't even notice or something like that. Or it's just like a pain where you're wearing them and you're holding something and suddenly you're like, oh God, hold on, I can't hear what you're saying. I have to take these out. It's like, it could just lower it for you automatically. So
that's pretty
I want
neat.
Apple to basically steal that, because that sounds great.
Shameless.
But also just cheaper and pretty solid. It does tend to work better with Samsung phones, but any type of Android probably too. Or if you are, I don't know what would compel an iPhone user to buy Samsung headphones. It does seem like just not in your consideration set, but it seems fine. So as long as they said that they're a lot more comfortable than the earlier versions and things like that, which is always a win. Sometimes you don't realize how uncomfortable your headphones are until you get different ones. And then you're like, oh my God, I was in so much pain.
What was I doing this whole time? I can see clearly now. The pain is gone. Wow. Thank you. I can hear clearly now. The pain is gone. What the heck, Mikah? You missed that one. Ugh.
You still got me.
Terrible. Thank you. Same. What is that? Is that the same price as AirPods Pro? $199?
I think AirPods Pro are $250, $270.
$249 or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So a little bit less expensive. And yeah, I like that voice detection. That's a pretty neat feature. Shameless copy. Let's do it. All right. Now here's a product that I think anybody could get excited about. Certainly something that I, once you pop this in, was eyeballing, which is Samsung's new smart monitor. So it's actually a line of products, the smart monitor lineup, which is kind of a way to combine a standard monitor with a smart TV, if you will. So it says this is from the Cult of Mac article. The Samsung Smart Monitor does everything you would expect from a desktop display. It's available in both 1080p and 4K versions, and both support HDR10 and HDMI 2.0 and USB-C with charging, but the M5 and M7 smart monitors pack in 5-watt speakers, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, and also come with a Samsung remote so that you can use the Smart Hub platform. A built-in app store offers all your favorite streaming services, including Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV, and you can stream directly from your iPhone, iPad, or Mac using AirPlay 2. This is really cool. So essentially, yeah, it is. It's a computer monitor that is also a smart TV. And since Samsung smart TVs now support the Apple TV app, and in this case support AirPlay 2, you can use it like it's a television. And given that the prices start at $229, those are really good prices. I might have to. Yeah. I've been looking for replacements for my now very old 1610 aspect ratio Dell Ultra Sharp displays. They don't make them anymore. They're 1920 by 1200 displays, and I've got 2 of them, and I've used these for a really long time. And I've been looking or thinking about getting an update, and the fact that this has that stuff built into it really kind of interests me, not least because there are a few places in my home where I don't like the idea of putting a full-on television, a big old TV, but to have a little smaller monitor that also just happens to be a smart TV. That's very compelling. So I think Samsung's going to sell a boatload of these, and I might be one of their first customers. What do you think about it?
I think it's super interesting. I was looking at the Best Buy reviews, and some of them are saying it's like not super bright as a monitor, and maybe the viewing angles might not be perfect, but this is totally something that I was using my Xbox for when I first got this new monitor, and I haven't been lately. And I noticed that I missed that setup of just being able to play a video on my computer on this screen, not whether or not it's on my computer, and have simple media controls. I think was part of it too, where like you have to go into YouTube and queue things up, or if you use Chrome, then you can actually have a queue. And just being able to AirPlay something up there real quick and switch it back would be cool. It totally makes a lot of sense. It's especially, I mean, this isn't a gaming monitor at all, but I did it for the purpose of doing half gaming and half computer work. And I think those have blended for a lot more people, especially honestly at home. And now that we're in these spaces so much more, just being able to watch a TV show at your desk or something like that occasionally instead of in the main space makes sense for a lot of people also. AirPlay 2, yeah, and having the Apple TV or the TV app built in as just like the Netflix stuff always is. It's pretty solid.
With little speakers,
It makes a lot of
which,
sense.
Folks would most likely get better speakers to connect to it. But I like the idea, if you're not using, it's not your main speaker, or it's not your main television, but to have it also be a television kind of as an aside, or if you have headphones where you do the real listening, but just want some speakers as a way to listen otherwise. I think this is really, I don't know why someone hasn't. I mean, maybe there are other companies that have. I have not heard of a product that does this to take a monitor and turn it into a smart TV versus someone just using a smart TV as a monitor. This is a really good idea.
Yeah, I do think a lot of the monitor markets have been focused on gamers. Like I bought one in October, and there's a lot of either like Dell type stuff that's purely for work, or gamers, or they just don't really serve a lot of other customers that way. And so I think this is kind of it makes sense that this would be more relevant this year than ever before, of a mixed entertainment and work in a home environment kind of thing that maybe they didn't see the market for before. But it is, there's a 27-inch 1080p, and then 32-inch 1080p, and then a 4K one. I would, if you specifically, Mikah, looking into it, I think there's something with 32 inches at 4K that does mess with the resolution a little bit, and so you might have to scale how the stuff displays. So it kind of like, I have 4K, but I don't really get the full benefit of the same thing that the iMac does in this. I don't know. It's a complicated thing, but I would double check on that too. But I agree. I like want this type of product for sure. Maybe not specifically one of these, but
yeah, I think this is very neat.
Yeah, awesome new product category, basically.
Yeah, I want more companies making smart monitors. Smart monitors. That's it. It's smart TVs are old school. Out with the smart TVs. Those are so 2020. Yeah. In with the smart monitors. So you heard it here, and it's got to be a thing. Speaking of televisions and AirPlay, LG has a 4K laser projector that supports AirPlay 2. So it's not just televisions that have AirPlay support. There's also this $2,700 LG 810p 4K UHD laser smart home theater Cinebeam projector.
That is a lot.
Look at all the grills on this bad boy, because it's
a 3K 4K projector. Because
what does that mean? Oh, I get it. Ha!
But this looks awesome. I think projectors are still in the expensive realm, and this is like a big beast of one. But it says it's a 300 inches corner to corner, 2,700 lumens of brightness. So it's a lot. I mean, it's not nits because it's not a screen. It's just brightness because it's projecting it. But that's a lot of brightness. That's a lot of lumens. Yeah, but HDR. I mean, I still haven't seen. I don't think projectors that are this high of quality. This would have been a perfect example of why you go to CES in person to actually see what this looks like.
Yeah,
obviously
exactly,
not this year,
to know if it's any good.
Yeah, but this looks awesome. I mean, it's got a bunch of native services. It doesn't actually have the Apple TV app like the other thing does, but AirPlay 2 is still pretty solid for that. I think this is cool. Like, if I could afford it and had a space for it, this is the kind of thing I would get, because that just seems awesome.
I do. So I love the idea of not having this thing taking up space on a countertop or on the wall, and that it can be kind of, it's there or it's not there, and it works. But they're just so expensive, and it still feels so bougie. I think of it feels very privileged, and there's something about it. Yeah. And even if they're not expensive ones, because, there are some folks that have gotten less expensive ones, and they're perfectly happy with them, but there's something that just feels so, bougie about projectors.
Like,
it's like, I don't,
the only people
I don't,
who,
go ahead.
oh, just the only people that I've ever seen that had them were way richer than me, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I don't have a wine cellar, so I can't have a projector. Isn't that the rule?
I mean, that's something that I think about. I think it's probably related to our age, and at a certain point, not everybody's supposed to be poor. That's a complex of our capitalist system and things like that. So it's okay to be able to afford these things, assuming you earned your money in a way. I don't know. Anyways, it's however you want to spend your money. I think for a homeowner scale, I do think that's one of those things where it's hard for us to imagine ever being able to afford something like that because of
the way
everything.
Things are.
So it depends on who you are.
Society,
for sure,
man.
But I think
society gets me down. Society won't let me own a laser projector.
It's a laser projector in every home. I like these kinds of tech because they are aspirational. It's like, I want to be successful enough to have a home where I could have this cool laser projector or something like that. So, and
one day
there's people out there that it makes sense for. I think it always comes down to this is this version. Maybe they'll make a smaller version in the future, hearing that it's too pricey and people would be satisfied with some other like subset of it as a way that they can continue this. LG does make good products like that. So hopefully this brings that down as more and more people, those people subsidize us getting it later.
For this stuff to be directly beamed onto my eyes. And then I won't have to have this box. You know what I mean? Like, I can have a full screen image or video of something in front of me, and I don't have to have the box sitting there because my little glasses with AR have augmented what looks to me as a full screen projector. So
should we talk about that potential product coming from some potential
perfect
company?
Segue. Tell me more. I don't know why I'm using that voice. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, Bloomberg is reporting that Apple is releasing, or I don't even know, they're working on a VR type headset before they would do an AR type thing. And these are, I mean, I'm curious if you've heard any other conversation on Twitter about this so far, because I never know what to take a piece like this, like how to take it exactly. They have a lot of reporting about some of the things that could be happening, but that very much sounds like something that's in development, where they have a lot of pieces that could be true or not. And probably, I mean, there's at least a prototype, so that it makes sense. Like a company like Apple is probably working on this in these realms. And there's been a lot of hints towards this over the last couple of years. If you're like deep in the Apple community, it's sort of like assuming that Apple is going to make a headset like this at some point. And so it is interesting to know that these are in progress, but there's still so many things that could change based off of how Apple does it. And even the marketing at the end can make a huge difference too. But it's cool. I mean, seeing this stuff actually moving forward is exciting, especially with seeing the Oculus 2, like we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, sold a ton. Whether or not it's maybe not popular, Apple is a lot better at making things popular than Facebook is, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Or Facebook makes the wrong things popular, but
we had the very smart and very knowledgeable Renee Ritchie on Tech News Weekly today to talk about this story specifically. So do go check out that episode if you want to hear all of his thoughts on it. But it was good to get to talk to him because he kind of broke things down and discussed how this fits into Apple's larger plans of eventually going AR, and what were his thoughts on the validity of this and what, Apple's thinking could be if it was valid. And so it is, it's really a method of kind of testing the waters, and not only testing the waters, but kind of laying the groundwork for a future in which an augmented reality device of some sort could exist. And this would help Apple kind of figure out how that fits into the landscape and give developers a chance to experiment with this technology and make stuff for it and get consumers more comfortable with it. It will be, a more expensive device. And I think that in the same way that you can go for a less expensive Android device and get a lot of the stuff that an iPhone can do, using Android with Google services will provide a trade-off in terms of privacy. And so one of the things that, people ask, like, what is it that gets people to spend that amount of money on Apple devices? And aside from the cultural reasons of maybe wanting to fit in with a certain group or aspirational desires, like you've kind of talked about, is the idea that you are paying more for a different perspective and what's the word I'm looking for? A different handling of your personal data. And so with that in mind, I look at this potential product as something that, you can buy the Oculus at the price that it's available at, the Oculus Quest. But if you want a super premium, so it's like it is both high quality and also it doesn't require you to have a Facebook login to use. And that Apple is more driven by its desire to protect your privacy, and that it is not a company that makes money off of its customers' data, but instead makes money off of its customers, then that this product is going to be something that does those things. And so the article talks about how it's already being tested and being tested with processors that are more powerful than the M1 and with displays that are higher quality than the displays that are currently in headsets in the Oculus Quest and in the HTC Vive. And so you get a higher resolution, or I don't know how that works. The refresh rate is better. I don't know if that means higher refresh rate, because I know there's like ratios and stuff like that, but a better refresh rate, better contrast, better low light performance, better resolution. You combine that with a processor that is better than, frankly, most of the PC hardware on the market, which is wild. Like, if it's better than the M1, then it's better than much of the PC hardware that's on the market. And, better performance at a lower battery and, longer lasting. And all of those things add up to a super premium experience that could be the best version of VR that we've ever seen. However, there's one place where we have to think about Apple and what it can provide, because sure, it acquired a VR company where you can, rent a ticket to go see a concert in virtual reality. But what is VR mostly used for? Gaming. Yeah. And Apple notoriously is not well known for its gaming offerings. Even after offering Apple Arcade, mobile, it's not.
Depends on who you are, but yes.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
Mobile
that's
games
fair.
are still a huge market.
Yes.
But yeah, it's
no,
VR
that's totally
is
fair.
More towards like a console quality thing, but also does currently exist in a smaller format like that it's possible. And especially with M1 potentially changing some of the stories with Macs in the future, I think that's part of what's so different about this, is that it's currently still completely under development. So they could change the story by then, basically, with a couple of years and some time and money.
If they started working with those publishers, because suddenly the M3 has, or the V1, because it's a virtual reality chip, with VOS, which is the internal name for the virtual reality software. The V1 chip is, the graphics card in it is miles beyond what we've seen in similar style technology. Then maybe they are working with the big VR publishers, and suddenly you can play, what's it called? Beat Saber, yeah. Beat Saber, in a way that you never experienced before. That could really drive people to the platform for sure.
Yeah, it is fascinating too, because even they're just saying, like, the article has some stuff about the potential AR glasses after that, and how a big difference is just that to make them smaller, they remove the part where your actual glasses could fit. And at that point, Apple would have to sell prescription versions of the headset, or like prescriptions in there and something like that, which is fascinating. Or even just like if it was the VR headset, could be like soft material on the outside, like just fabric instead of aluminum, like everything else from Apple. So this is a very interesting story. And this piece in particular, I think, is one of the biggest kind of points outside of Apple talking about it ever, to be like, this is probably happening in these ways. It's still going to come in a year or two, but there are real things inside of Apple where people are working on this stuff. So it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. Up next, our project for this week. And let us talk about our project for this week. So this one's my project, and it's kind of an ever ongoing project, but I wanted to talk about it because of the way that having something like this can kind of open the door for all sorts of connected and smart and Internet of Things style automations and systems, and that is network attached storage. So on my home network, I have. Let me go back, because I can remember when I first started working at Mobile Nations, which is at the time was the company that owned iMore. I was doing not just articles, but when you write these articles, you also take lots of photos. I was doing the iMore podcast at the time, so audio files, and then was also doing video occasionally. So I'd have huge video files, and all of these things did not fit very well on my local computer's hard drive, and it was kind of troublesome having to organize a bunch of different hard drives that I attached and then detached from my system. So I, at that point, wanted to upgrade to a network attached storage system. And I did so with, at the time, I wasn't able to afford investing in kind of one of the big players in the space, QNAP and Synology, where you would buy the like $200, $250, $300, $400 machine itself, and then you would buy the hard drives that went inside of it, which they themselves could be $200. That was too much of an investment for me at the time, and so I wanted something that was simple to set up and that was within my price, within my budget at the time. And I found something from Western Digital called the WD MyCloud. And so there was I think at the time it was like a 2 terabyte option, and it was just one single 2 terabyte drive inside of this white enclosure. It kind of looks like the one that we're showing on screen now. That's it's a black enclosure, but it was just thinner because there's only one drive inside, and it was white. And for a while, that was fine for me. I didn't really need any more. I didn't really know about RAID at the time and hadn't done the research for all that. And so that 2 terabyte version was fine. But as any digital hoarder knows, you start to get more files over time. And when you do, then that storage fills up and you need more space. And so I looked at, things again and said, do I pivot to QNAP or Synology, or do I just keep on with what I know? And I decided at the time to just keep on with what I knew. I think at some point I will eventually switch to one of those in the end. But for now, I went online again and found, I think it's the one that I linked is like 10 terabytes or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of different sizes.
Yeah, so there are a bunch of different sizes. Basically, it comes with an enclosure that you can have two. So the 8 terabyte one, for example, is actually 4 terabyte hard drive and 4 terabyte hard drive installed into the enclosure. And you can run it as, as a RAID system, meaning that one of the hard drives kind of works as a backup so that if one of the hard drives fails, you have all of that data there on the other one. You can also completely turn that off and essentially run them as one huge 8 terabyte storage option. That obviously is it's not a great thing to do, because if one of the hard drives fails, then you lose some of your data. Mm-hmm. So I have it set up basically it's just one of the hard drives is an exact copy of what the other one has. And that way it's always, if one of the drives fails, I'm good to go. But along with having having a network attached storage, meaning that from any of my devices, I can put files onto the hard drive, and I can, as long as I'm connected to my Wi-Fi, and even if I'm not home and am out and about for whatever reason, which if I am, tell me to go home. But even out and about, I can still access it through the app that WD has. And that's one of the things that I liked too, because the QNAP and Synology are a little bit more nerd friendly and less average consumer friendly. And so this just makes it so easy to create or to access everything without having to worry about, router configurations and all that kind of stuff. Although I ended up having to do some of that. And so I can just launch the WD MyCloud app and log in, and I've got access to all of the stuff that's stored on my local drive. And then on top of that, I have it set up so that, I already upload and back up all of my photos to Apple Photos and to Google Photos, although that's going to stop soon because Google Photos is about to start charging for that. And what is the third one? Amazon's Prime photo service. And on top of that, each of my devices is connected with the WD MyCloud system. So I've got local backups of all of my photos. So that way, even if the ones out in the world go down, I still have those photos locally. That is just one part of it, though, because WD MyCloud offers different apps. And so you can set it up with Plex, which for anybody who doesn't know, Plex is a system that lets you manage a media library. And so you can have all of your, photos, videos, music, and stuff like that. They've been a sponsor of the show in the past. And so I can have my Plex server set up. You can set it up with an iTunes server so that you can play your iTunes media library across different devices like your Apple TVs and things like that. There's Good Sync, which is a syncing utility so that you can back up local data. I have it set up with Time Machine, so my Mac automatically backs up to the network attached storage via Time Machine. And you can even set up a WordPress blog on it and basically run a website from your local network attached storage. Local network attached storage online. And those are just some of the things. I mean, you can also set it up to, because it's got 2 USB drives. So I can set it up to where it serves as kind of a USB network bridge. So, if you've got a printer or some sort of dongle or scanner or something, and you want easy network access to it, you can just USB it into the network attached storage and use it there. And it goes on from there. I mean, there's lots of different technologies available that lets you use the network attached storage. So I think it's fantastic. I think anybody who deals with files in large amounts or large files in small amounts would benefit from something like this. And just having a local backup on top of the other ones of your important files and your computer system is so important. And like I said, MyCloud makes it super easy to do, but you can go for something else if something else makes more sense to you. And then because it's configurable, I can upgrade those drives over time. So if I decide to increase the capacity, I could buy 2 10 terabyte drives, and essentially you take one of the drives out, you put the 10 terabyte drive in, and then it copies the files from the one drive that's still in there into the 10 terabyte one. And then you take the other smaller one out and then put the other 10 terabyte drive in, and then your RAID system is back up and running again. So it's all very good on backing up stuff and getting network access to those devices. And then I could go as far as to, if I wanted to, I could have used this to install Homebridge out of the box. Or like I don't even need to use Hoobs. I could just install Homebridge itself and run it on this, and some other tools like that. It also has the ability to automatically download content from an FTP server. So if, say, you I don't know if you've got a not a weather machine, but what is the term? A weather monitor. I can't think of the actual name for it.
Weather station.
Weather station. Thank you. Weather station. And you have it downloading data. And you want to it's down, maybe it's uploading data to some server that you have set up. Then you could download that data over FTP. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do with this once you start to understand how it works, and then using it as the ability to manage your own library of files is pretty neat. One of the other things is that it has the ability to work with multimedia devices, so it can be like a TV tuner essentially, and you can from your cable subscription or whatever, you could use it as a DVR type system.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so lots of different things.
Do you know if that's because of WD's MyCloud thing, or is that any network attached storage? I guess those extra things on top.
Any network attached storage, if it has the plugin, can do it. Essentially, this is a plugin that pairs with, so it says, want to watch live TV over your home network without the use of a power-hungry PC? Well, this is the project you've been looking for. It has a Linux kernel with some media drivers so that it works with your network attached storage, and it has like the standard television protocols that are available. And this one is specific to the WD MyCloud system, but there are others that are out there. So it lets you create these methods of storing that content. So
is that super user friendly there too, or is that you just said Linux?
This is where it starts to get more nerdy for sure. Yeah, because installing the stuff for what was it? I can't remember what it was now, but there was one system that I was playing around with, and that's when it started to get a little bit more difficult to do.
Command line style.
Yeah, because instead of just like installing an app from the library of apps from the App Store, so to speak, you would have to install it manually, and so you have to download the right files, and it can get a little complicated. But and there are some things that benefit from being installed from the router being configured properly. So I ended up kind of having to do some research there. So there's still some nerdy stuff with network attached storage, but it is kind of a fun project to take on if you have the time. But of all of the stuff that's out there, I did find this to be the most simple to get going and to basically have a local Dropbox or a local iCloud drive or whatever cloud storage service you use, call it whatever you want. This is exactly that. And from wherever I am, if I have access to a browser or I have access to one of my devices with the WD MyCloud app installed, I can log in and get access to my files from my local drive. So very nice.
This makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think I have had an iMac somewhat recently, and then I have a Mac Mini now, and a lot of times that means that I don't think about the storage part as much, but especially if you are living like a laptop lifestyle or even iPad, and even with those things, having that storage is kind of like your home base for your files, that it doesn't rely on the computer that you have. And if it gets stolen or something like that, that's always trouble there. So, and then like you said, the multimedia center, that's something that a lot of at least Apple nerds will buy a whole Mac Mini just so that they can do these types of things. And so it's kind of a computer without needing to use a monitor and a screen, and you just access it from other computers and have it always running like that. I think that's the big thing, is having an always running machine is something that most people don't do. And that opens up possibilities for just storage. Plex is a major thing. I mean, I'm a video creator, and so I just checked. I got the 2 terabyte Mac Mini, and I'm using 1.7 of it because I have 900 gigabytes of movie files that my camera generates, which is like not that much footage, unfortunately. And so these types of things are actually, especially if you get into any sort of video realm, it just immediately balloons. 4K 60p HDR stuff it's like you record a minute of footage and it's like 10 gigabytes. So it really does add up quickly. And this seems a lot more approachable than Synology's do seem like. It's like, this is my video edit bay kind of thing specifically for that. And this seems like the most consumer friendly thing I've seen so far. What was the other brand that you mentioned?
Synology and QNAP. QNAP. QNAP.
Yeah, I don't even know that, which I feel like a noob now, because if that is, I mean, I guess you did research on it, but I've always, okay, is it OWC or is that another brand also? That's the one.
I don't know. All I know is that it's kind of like QNAP or Synology are the two ways to go. And in fact, if you type in Google QNAP, then one of the suggestions is QNAP versus Synology. And I did do research on that, and it's kind of that QNAP is a little bit more of the nerd out with it and get really, into the nitty gritty details. Synology has gone the way of trying to make it a little bit easier for consumers. So I'm probably going to go the way of Synology. And I know several people, including Leo, who's talked about his Synology before. So I know that has a good history.
Dibs on your WD. You're like, I'm done with it. No, just kidding.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll format it and yeah. So
like, Mikah,
that's my
what are all
project
these selfies you took on here.
That's my project. Let us move on to our picks of the week. All right. Up first, our pick of the week from Matthew Cassinelli.
Yes. This is, one of those things that you're like, this is a genius product. And I will say upfront, it's on Indiegogo, but it's got $5 million in funding. So I think they're doing all right there. It's not like they just started it or something, but it's the Bird Buddy, which is a smart bird feeder. So it's a little birdhouse thing that has room for all the bird feed. And then there is a camera on it, live streaming camera situation, and a whole service behind it, so that basically when a bird lands to feed out of it, it will activate the camera and start recording, and you can see just on your phone like a little bird that's outside or something like that, and take pictures and things like that, and also tell you what kind of bird it is. I think that's a super cool angle there too. So I thought this is clever.
Does it recognize Big Bird?
I think it might overwhelm the camera size there. It's a little bit bigger.
Well, then I have no use for it.
But they've got all these like attachments and a little solar panel roof, which I thought was just adorable.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
I love tiny things.
Or a suet ball holder, which is what birds, the little like gross it's a gross name, at least for the food, the way you like feed them. But I thought this was just super clever, because every time I like see a well, why can't hummingbird? I always want to like take a picture or something and get out my iPhone and try to get like a slow-mo thing. So they've even got they've got a whole database too. So that
oh my goodness, you're going to become a birder.
They've got some JSON, so I'm like, I could run shortcuts to see what kind of birds have been in my backyard or something.
You'll have a chart on Google Sheets where you can know which birds you're getting, and then you can also
name them.
Name all of your birds. But then you can have Philips Hue set up where when a red bird is recognized, it turns your light red.
Exactly.
And when a blue bird is recognized, oh my gosh.
Plays bird songs on my HomePod.
Even better, bird song tied to it. Like play this clip if this bird is detected.
I can see it. I mean, it might have the actual recording of them too, which is cool. I mean, I think it is $175, so it's a little pricey for. I would want. It's like you're like, like I totally want it, but I can't just pull the trigger on that immediately. But it does seem like a solid. The whole shape and everything. I think you're not
meant to shoot the birds, Matthew. So I don't know what you mean about pull the trigger. But I would also be worried. Like, I better have a lot of friggin' birds.
Yeah, maybe it's where I live, but we get a good amount here.
Or just constantly, what are they called? Grackles. Just grackles left and right. I'm going to be kind of annoyed if that's all that, you know what I mean? That's all there are. I don't even know if grackles are common in this area. Certainly back where I'm from, they are.
I've never done it before.
It's like a blackbird.
I do think the East Bay where I live has a decent amount. And it's also one of those things. I was reading this book called How to Be Bored, and it's about people overcommitting their attention towards the world and things like that. And the person would like go around to a specific place and listen to the birds. And as she listened more and more, she started to recognize that they were around her a lot more, and she just never noticed it and things like that. So I think a slow, simple awareness of the environment around you is a really powerful thing. I think the other day I was on a walk and I was just like, I like hear bird songs and I'm curious what those are, because if you just don't pay attention, you'll never notice. So especially if you know it and can listen to the little sound. And this goes back to like, I mean, even Google and Siri all have like animal sounds and things like that too. So maybe that's a trend of 2021 is just identifying nature around you in a simple way with all this smart tech that we actually have.
I see how that works.
There's a bird outside.
Your sneaky pick was How to Be Bored, but you tried to sell it with this smart device.
I will say I have a text from my girlfriend from this morning saying there's a bird that's been sitting on the phone wires across the street. It's adorable. He just changes directions every once in a while, but otherwise hasn't moved. That is the end of my report.
Oh, that's cute.
The little things, Mikah.
Pay closer attention to birds.
How to Be Bored is an excellent book. I'll put the links in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get that book for sure. So I have an incredibly non-smart pick. I mean, it's smart to have it if you... Okay. Let me try and focus here because there's a lot to it. First of all, it's important for you to understand, dear listener, that I hate baths. I think baths are the weirdest, grossest things. Baths are gross to me. I think showers are fantastic, but I don't understand sitting in your own human soup. It's disgusting and creepy, and I like when I'm in the bath, on the rare occasion that I have to be in the bath, I just am uncomfortable the whole time. But I had an issue with my ankle recently and needed to was prescribed soaking in the tub. And so I told my doctor, like, you realize that this is the worst thing you could ever prescribe me, right? Like this is my nightmare. And she's like, shruggy emoji. And so I listened to my doctor, even though I didn't want to, and got in the bath and have, done the proper soaking or whatever. But my partner is not a bath hater like I am. And he had mentioned that the tub is like the placement of the overflow drain is a little lower it seems, than a standard tub, or the tub is just shallower than a standard tub. And so it's kind of troublesome because the water doesn't stay hot for as long and you kind of don't get as covered up. And so for me, it was like, well, good, because then you will get out of your human soup much quicker and there won't be any, like, it won't encourage you to be in it as much. But then as these things often go, you gain some empathy when you are god awfully prescribed by your doctor to sit in your own soup, and you understand then what the person was saying. And so I decided to make him happy, and for the period of time in which I had to be undesirably sitting in a tub, to make that experience better. And so I want to point to this $9.99 invention. I have to say this requires a person who doesn't get distracted by a telephone call or a baby cry or a tea kettle whistling or something like that, because you need to be paying attention to the tub as it's filling if you're going to use this, because it is an overflow drain cover. Essentially, this product, it's a sort of rubberized device that you suction cup over the overflow drain in your bathtub, and it allows the water to fill up past the overflow drain. And there's a hole in the top, so ultimately it wouldn't overflow completely. The water would still pour down into the suction cup and then go out of the overflow drain. So you're probably not in trouble. But if you're going to use this, don't step away. In fact, what I did was I didn't start putting it on until I was already in the tub and was letting it fill up with me inside of it. Because that's the other thing. If you fill it up without you inside of it, you might then see that whenever you go and get in the tub, then the water rises past the point and does spill over the side, and you don't want that either. So if you're out there and you are a tub lover, a human soup soaker, a bouillon cube of human flesh and sweat and all the other gross things that our body sloughs off, if you appreciate that experience, this might be something that you want to check out, because I think that it could make your bath time experience all the more great if that's the thing you like. And yeah, again, it is not a smart tech product, but it is just something that I know there are people who really do love baths, and they really, it's a meditative time for them. It's a relaxing time for them. They feel good being in the bath, and I do not knock it. I do not knock you for it. I do knock it because I have tried it and I don't like it, but I do not knock you for liking being in a bath. More power to you. And I'm glad that it's a relaxing experience for you. And yeah, if you want to make it even more spa-like and as if you're in some hot springs tub in the middle of the Adirondacks, then you should check out this, I thought, really inexpensive, $10, and you can stick it over the overflow drain, and you've got an even fuller tub, and that it's going to mean water stays hotter longer because there's more of it. And some physicist out there is screaming at me like, "That's not how water works. That's not how heat works." But anyway, point is, I thought that this was a delightful product. For the period of time in which I had to be that human bouillon cube, and my partner, who doesn't mind being the human bouillon cube, thought this was a great product as well. So yeah, I wanted to point to it because we could all use some relaxation and happiness and joy. So there we go.
And the related products too on Amazon, they have those like bamboo trays that you always see that go across the bath, where the person's like, they got a bottle of champagne for some reason.
A bottle of champagne, a book. I was just reading, you're not meant to be in hot water for more than 30 minutes because it raises your blood pressure. So you could be damaging your blood vessels by being in hot water for that long. So I'm like, if you can read a whole dadgum book and drink champagne, and champagne, which has alcohol in it, is also going to raise your blood pressure. That all just sounds like a really bad idea. But yeah, and so like those bath pillows, and you get the stinking bamboo dealie, and you're just in there for like 3 hours. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, man. Anyway,
I want to say real quick, by the way, the book that I was mentioning earlier is called How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy, not how to do
nothing.
Yes,
because How to Be
similar.
Bored is also a book.
Yes, but different author. Probably entirely different. I assume.
This one has flowers all over the front of it. Yes.
Yeah, by Jenny Odell. It's good. It's actually like it's a pretty intense read compared to if you were thinking about like a productivity advice book, because she's very literary and so has a lot of references to things that aren't just like, oh, I read the Checklist Manifesto or something like that. Like it's actually a real book. So I appreciate that for sure.
All right. I'm definitely oh, and look, I get a $1.20 credit if I buy this book. Cool. Oh, good. And they've got the deal for the Audible narration because let's be real, I'll be listening to it, not reading it. Well, just technically reading it. Anyway, point is, the show has come to an end. If you have questions, we do want to answer your questions soon. I've seen a few more of those pop up, which is fantastic. So I've started gathering those. I think we've got about 4 or 5 right now. So if you are concerned that your question is not one of those 4 or 5, then go ahead and send those in. stt@twit.tv, Smart Tech Today @twit.tv, stt@twit.tv. And you can always tune into the show live when we record, which I need to update this stinking document because I have not done that yet.
Have we not updated?
Yes, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, which is 21:30 UTC is when we record the show live. So twit.tv/live will get you there. But honestly, the best way to get the show is on your own time. And you do that by subscribing in audio and video formats. It's twit.tv/STT. And that will get you the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can check out the show on your own time as soon as it's ready every week. If folks want to follow you online, Matthew Cassinelli, and check out all your work, where do they go to do so?
My website is matthewcassinelli.com, and up there I've got in the bar up there, there's Shortcuts catalog for sure. Check that out. And then I've got a membership, as well as in the About section, I've got my newsletter that people can check out. I update what's going on in Shortcuts and send new shortcuts every week. What about you?
Beautiful. I am online at chihuahua.coffee, CHIHUAHUA.coffee. That is a place where I've got links to the different places I exist online and QR codes if that's your thing. So you can check out my stuff there. But yeah, I'm pretty much at Mikah Sargent on all of the social media networks, or as many as I can be. Folks, I want to tell you it's January, and that means that our annual survey is underway. We are reaching the end of January, and so we don't want to miss your feedback. You need to get your answers in. We've got quite a few so far, and we'd love to hear from you. You just go to twit.tv/survey21 to take it now before it closes in February. You don't want to be missed, to be counted among our listeners. twit.tv/survey21 to help us understand who's out there and what you are interested in. It helps us make our shows better. It helps us choose the right sponsors for the show, all sorts of stuff that it helps us improve the content we are bringing to you. It'll only take you a couple minutes, and it's not going to, record your name and email and things like that, so you don't have to worry about that. These are general questions that help us out. So twit.tv/survey21 is where you go to get that, and we do appreciate it. All righty, folks. It's time to say good afternoon to your smart assistants, including Brandon.
Yeah. Bye, Brandon.
Bye, Brandon. What? What'd you say?
Hey folks, I'm Ant Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on Twit TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera, or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. My show, Hands-On Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.